Anase soma udoma hotefo ebenya de akwakodi ho anase edin ene wo nanso eni ho ehye nipa da sani ebetu akowiem ene onyankropon akotena democracy eyema bibifo anase enyema yen kwasi broni tim popa ene sentia wadi vaccination eba abibiman mu na family plan so mpo no ehye ben ana kwasi broni hyehyeye ewo krom entia wode etoa yen eba ne sen ana gay ati atese ewo wiase afana nyinara ene wese illuminati ene wese freemason ene wese sumwemu ni nyinara ahyase firi he no broni tim po a wode sani ma we nyinara eba no de atoa abibiman mu no ene sen we entram so hwe wake up Africa kwasieda we ni kwasieda bia awia dumienu ekopem awia no mienu live on Royal TV eye dwumadi a ofa poku danko ye executive director edema freedom mind movement ene ofa Israel Nkrumah a eye coordinator edema freedom mind movement no
ebeka me Kofi Kumi ho
na yesim konya no madi dwumadi ho chiame na ensem bia tise no ye gina twekro so abakosem ene ntwere ahodro so na ede mo hu ba bia obibini ufiri ene mu a edro ene soma wo sombo na mabrofo sisi ache ebra so se call together twele kan no etumi bam ne no ana hyase o freedom mind movement dwumadi e say wake up Africa dwumadi so praso say ye fa dwumadi live on Royal TV so kwasieda we ni kwasieda bia awia dumienu kopim no mienu na ya de so adwenche na wasemusa yeye ano e dia ma wake up Africa abibiman moma yen sore
one business general abatown eyeniko multimedia so pay video editing photo shoot photo editing documentary business advert music video funeral program birthday parties onua uni haukra esan say niko multimedia ebeye ni nyina naso yenwie yo so we your wedding papa bi niko multimedia si en ha ho kra o me cover ni nyina ma so we are sorry anaso say we edwumakuo bi a o pesa u streaming live o program aye social media handles na aye Twitter Facebook and the keka ho na niko multimedia si woni how esan so mo ye ni nyina live abra program na ekoso niko multimedia si omotonton gadget aye media gadget papa ebini aye audio and video equipment cameras speakers microphones mixers nyina niko multimedia aye ho adwuma niko multimedia ewo koforidia eho ana motare betimi afre niko multimedia ewo 0244549107 aye niko multimedia the media general ewo town. Thank you.
Sibroni mwamati asaye okroto wamati asaye Amuna oba ye krum se oba betre yamesu etre no to nipa etre no di asase akwanu me akwanu mana di asase
na ye wake up Africa dwumadi enti ana magye egwe Royal Television so kwesi da biadu na premoto a na kyerese dwumadi ye sinkonwa ewo so ene eye 5th 11th bosome no ayetoso num no ne da etoso dubaako na ene me ne mpanyifo asinkonwa eye wo fa ya opoku dankwa a wo ye executive director de ma eku efe no freedom mind movement one ne ba Israel Nkrumah a ono so ye national coordinator de ma eku efe no freedom mind movement mpanyifo yi aka me se na ma ye sinkonwa na ene ye wura ba ma no so na ensem bia wo ho no onim se mpanyifo agi akonwa na kese nye asem keto akra ne obia na ebeyi e de apie di aba na wochi enene ena mene ofayawo poku dankwa etena eye fidie so na owura bama no so na oyiyi nsam pie ya yekote edin bia ye fe no Terranellus and Terranellius good enye dinketo a nti wo bona wanhwe otechire ma obeka aha oma ye wura ho na ye te sa din na edin ni nchire mu nyina ne se enipa bia hu asase bia na da ba bia sa asase no obi ani so eye abibiman asase no abrofo se o ma be discover asase no na asase no be discover no obi ani so nti omo fa asase no chichem ma nu nti ekoye eye 1884 to 1885 Berlin Conference omo be see Africa koso twitwam papam ma obi anya ne chefa se be ya na ntokwa na omo kokon omo ho bro omo ho esan agudie ne eniama pa omo be hu wa ha no na afi omo aye challenge amom no omo ko si ko so eye esa dwumadi se na be obi abenya ne chefa omo che Africa ade fae na no na ofa kire se sa Terra Nelius yi ne nyina abotaya na eta chi ni se na esese omo fa kwan bia so na omo be assimilate yen na omo fa kwan bia so na afi omo de omo niema omo de ye ebe wura yen na omo dane yen na afi niema omo pese ye no eno ena omo be hwe na yaye eno anso so ampa omo tu hwana mon emene mene wo kasai ni abroni pese oye ene ni abroni hyehyede ma abibiman no eno a ena yeguso a yeye na woche ene ne ena ofa bie we nyina so kire yen a yehu kwan a akwasikoko fa so a Africa na ye wo empires akese ni nipatitiru a na omo omabra bokpa bia na omo hyehyeye egu akwam governance na nso ni nyina mu no kwasikoko se enipa bia ni ha na enu nti omo fa asa kwanya we so ebete Africa fire na woche ne ofa edi ye wura mu ena nso so mpanyifo na tenase ena de bra panyi abeka yensa eye Israel ene okan ye ho enti dwumadie no ene de mo amafe no no wo bete ne nka ebia na woni fie na nso dwumadie wo pese wo ka ho ane okọ Abefontin tanso a o hwe Wake Up Africa GH Wake Up Africa GH ane onsa beka yen e wo YouTube e na Facebook na dwumadie wa hwe ne live sanso so e na matena si o SMS e na WhatsApp message fabremi making kind e de amount number adbefa so no ye 0206 519335 0206 519335 okay maka ne sawie no announcement kakra e wo ho announcement e wo ho ne kire se freedom mind movement ye wo emakuo ema ekuo a ewo mu no ye from Zion ladies na ye maami odi animu no me frɛ no maami ya santoa me din a me de frɛ no ono no ema ni nyina emema tetehwe na emema apa aba na emema bubu totɔ no sorry gina na wo so ne ho a ya asɛm aranko na ndra ye maami ene ne mpanyimfo edi djuma soronko kɛseɛ bi ɛwɔ ye headquarters ka okudi a na kyerɛ sɛ enye asɛm ketewa enye asɛm kuma na no ɛna National Council ɛde asɛm yi afa mi mu sɛ memfa ma ye maame ne nkosi ɔne ne mpanyimfo ne ɛyɛ Zion ladies nyina so sɛ anwanwade soronko ɔmayɛ no asɔ ɛyɛ National Council any movement ni nyina ani sɛ ɛma na timi asɔre agina na nneɛma a mɛma ntumi nyɛ no ɛma no ɔmo boss adwuma nti Mama Africa baabi a wo bia jiwutu oni mpanyimfo ane ya fɛn sɛ National Council sɛ memfa saa nkaboi maw sɛ aseda piesie enkɔma wone oma ni nyina na ɔbɔ adeɛ ni nhyira soronko emra ema ni nyina so na kwan a mofa so a motu saa na mo di saa dwuma no ɔbɔ adeɛ ma mo honhom a next time no mobetimi di ayaboro so akyɛn so na ɔbɔ adeɛ nso nhyira ene ne basa yi adoma eba wo so a ede ne paba no aba mo so na mo nyuma mabrabɔ impo maware ene mo fie aye nhyira nko a mo tena bia nyina enye nhyira we national priest ene kasa no anu nti ɔbɔ adeɛ nhyira ena yesre ede ama mo maka ne sawie no afi yenko dwaman so na yeni dwa kakra ani Israel consort ɔkɔ a ɔde biba na we de no ɔde aba no ɛyɛ quantum spectacle na saa spectacle yi ne dwumadi a edi no ɛyɛ nwanwaso soronko paa ewei eni yare ɛna ɛsa sɛ o glaucoma de a mepacho we enya wo de a entumi ensa glaucoma na emom no sɛ wani no oposaposa so ɛyɛ na so yɛ ohene ɛkekaw ɛpuru nsuo ebo sɛ wani no na so ayɛ tum sɛ wani no saa na tie de a ɛne hwehwani wawe ɛyɛ wo de a okay no na ohwɛ ɛyɛ screen so a yɛde ato so kama no aha na saa hwehwani wawe ɛbɛsa wani ne yare we no yɛmfa nkenkan adeɛ ohya ebese wani ni yare nti ahwe ni wawe se otobia yenyi ntowo ehye tambia na yisa okoda ehye tambia na ehyew ana o kenkan ade de a eno ye fa kenkan ade ne wayi na ne o de kenkan ade no o de kenkan o wie pe na wasan atamawura ebese wani ni yare esa wani ni yare ebedu ba bi bo se uhia biem sanso bo se wani na fe de problem na wo so nyina no wanya wayaresa eba ne sa no wayi eno na eba ne sa na me di sa din no se abusua nkyemfa e de aka ho eno ntimi me frɛ na abusua nkyemfa isan se wi ni to ho na ebia na wo nua bi o papa bi o nana bi o maame o wafa ase o siwa bi enso wo sa problem na sa how na ofa de wura ono so na ono de age na yaresa eno ntimi se eye abusua nkyemfa we ba bia wo Ghana mantua bia no obo ya homa mu a epacho ya de bi ebebrewo eye number obetimi afre no eye 0244 888 910 0244 910 and o de fresa number no be bia wo bia and say 0206 519335 sa number we nyina no pusu Ghana mancho ba bia wo hye bia no onsa ebetumi akabi maka ne sa wie na fe min company fo na me no madi na fe ne wo ho no yemfa ento aso ijai
Easy.
Mama kwaba.
Joso.
Mujiri se ahoden wo ho.
Oh.
Abusiafo afio pa. Enti pachoka bibi kire wo.
Maba.
Okay. Abusia me ba cho ose waba. Minimum se mo afi no. Waba. Enti wabedu ene wo bete ne nka. Ave
Kofi.
Aba ma kwaba.
Mejo so.
Mujiri se bibia eboko.
Ohia.
Na wotwe ne na menu mienu na etifidie so. Na obie nsemu. Papa nsemu. Minimum se abusia nim se wo de wura ba man so a ofa history abakosem na wabatwrosem mu current affairs senya ya wo ye no kwa no mo se ye o mo fe no ti o mo se me betena ha na me anhwe na me keka kasa biblia ma hwe amenya asem nti ofa we de mpacho wada roma me ja biblia de me dasa
Dedi ka ebe chi ahefo di
agefo je ozofa
yada Zion ladies for so as me so be the account.
Okay.
Because adamontu a wo mutu no eburu adwen ne ntiase so. Akase ebe hu
Men of Zion. Men of Zion.
Men of Zion. Say die Zion ladies. Omu kokra. Edi abuna oni umpanyimfo me chia asida PCA na me so me de mamo. Maybe ni saa no Kofi na o twetwa mu no e de hwe sania abrofo baba gi ensase a o mo dane enkwa ewo ya ensase so njenu ntino o mo sabe kan ensase e de me wa asase dum eni enipa ewo mu nyina ye subjects enu sunti no de ko ba ni se sukuu po a di be ba yedi nyina na imperialists for no so ba no as o won be colonize asase na nkasa se missionaries me ba no di school ni so re ba o so ba o be she school no mokina ana be o be dane addition no won de ko share western philosophy Western concepts, any ideas, suddenly between us, any vision, culturally, socially, economically, and politically. We almost have set up socio-political structures. A whole of the cash crop economy in the brain. A whole almost set up, say, young client to be in control, into certain political structures. We say we are council. And then they might say, Yanko for the home tratra. And in the changing it, I say, administratively, the home structure near my say, after the young and near war colony in Mono, Yabe British subjects. Into the echoes who are Brutino, as a colony, no, yes, we can't. And to wait on the buyer at the betrayal, and the woman say, Additional Muno. Ebe hu say before bi o ho ana o ma disua no ekwa animu edina say ne ensa mo mu nkwa brochure for further studies. Almost so no, they had the opportunity to be exposed to the
social political structures ɛwɔ hɔ sɛnea wɔn bɛhu amamuo ho nneɛma sɛnea amamuo sɛm no kɔ so wɔ hɔ no enti wɔn mu a na wɔn wɔ ambition bi sɛ daakye biara wɔn nso ɛbɛsa aba wɔn aba abɛyɛ politicians no wɔn hwɛɛ no wɔn hu sɛ daabi yɛanya exposure sɛ colonialism dey nim sɛ ɛyɛ connected to capitalism ne imperialism ne sɛ nti ɛne deɛ yɛmpɛ koraa nti saa brɛ de na aburukyire ideologies bebree aba Karl Marx no mu deɛ nam baabi wei no nso deɛ nam baabi nti ɛkɔba sɛ bibifoɔ no as if by design obiara feel sɛ ɛne ɛsɛsɛ deɛ gye sɛ Karl Marx ideas no a na ɛbɛtumi ama abibifoɔ ayɛ liberated nti wɔn na ɛda wɔn akɔhu biribi ɛna wɔn pɛ sɛ wɔn de biribi ba bɛkyerɛ nti ɛbɛyɛ yareɛ even Ghana ha latter part of you know unya ko higher institution kwa dia emrantia o mai o mu se minim fo eni enim na aban no na say obehwem na bisa no ye de Marxist o ye Marxist na de ne Marxist ne de ni sa ne ma mo de ba say Karl Marx ne Communist Manifesto ne ma ya o de abene ni pa wi ne baba gu itrim na omo ba hu omo anu hu omo say we nim de ade da omo trim enti ubisa say na Marxism anasa Karl Marx ene mo de ba ye no no person trese enti e book we Origins of 19th Century Socialism no page we o can differences between capitalism, socialism and communism over kind.
Okay. Yo, book of Adama in 19th century European history and French history. Origins of 19th century socialism. Okay. Maybe of Adama no, maybe Amakino and a year kind. Capitalism is an economic structure where private persons own the production equipment. Socialism is an economic system in which the government owns and controls the majority of the means of production. Communism is an economic system in which, in theory, all goods are owned jointly and income is distributed according to needs. In capitalist states, government control and interfere. In capitalist states, government control and interference are seen as a minimum. Socialists believe in using incremental methods to achieve their aims of governmental ownership and control of production. In communism, people aren't given a lot of choices to choose what to make. Okay.
When you know, can ye? There it me abide to me for free one say. Two sides of the same coin. And ya at the corner. My equity be who. Your first video,
okay. Your first video no, idea that's only communism. Mo first video no, engumaye. Communism.
Advocating for a classless, stateless society where the means of production are collectively owned. It seeks to eliminate private property, abolish class distinctions, and distribute resources based on need. Communism emerged in the 19th century as a response to the inequalities of industrial capitalism. Its most influential theorist, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, laid its foundations in the Communist Manifesto, outlining the principles of historical materialism and the eventual overthrow of capitalism through a working-class revolution. Communism gained global prominence in the 20th century, beginning with the Russian Revolution of 1917, which established the Soviet Union under the leadership of Vladimir Lenin. The ideology spread to other countries, including China under Mao Zedong, Cuba under Fidel Castro, and several Eastern European nations following World War II. At its height, communism directly influenced governments across Asia, Latin America, and Africa, shaping global politics during the Cold War. Communist ideology emphasizes the elimination of exploitation, promoting economic equality, and collective decision-making. However, its implementation has often involved centralized authority, suppression of dissent, and economic inefficiencies. These issues, combined with competition from capitalist economies, contributed to communism's decline. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 marked a significant turning point, with many communist states transitioning to mixed or market economies. Communism remains controversial, and critics associate it with authoritarian regimes, lack of political freedoms, and economic failures. Supporters argue that it offers solutions to systematic inequality and poverty, and while its global influence has gone down, communist ideals continue to inspire movements advocating for workers' rights and social justice. Modern communism exists in a few states, like China and Cuba, though often adapted with market reforms, reflecting the challenges of implementing its original.
Sabi ugu so a wo share Wake Up Africa Royal Television so na video no kire eye papa bi owura bi osore Vladimir Lenin a ono okofa sa dwumadie ye communism baaye na ni nyina ne se na dwumadie bi wo ha na ye fe ne capitalism eno no so hwe no kruchire bibi se be ya ebenya bibi ebenya rivalry na ke sa ite se ompe ha obetimi a ape ha enti no kruchire sa akwan na obefa so ayese ni nyina ne ya mamu ho ade eno no so ede baaye eno na video no kire na kire ye dwumadi a communism ne baaye na ono de onam so a odi je ayi no so ye opposite capitalism kwanya capitalism fa so di ne dwuma no ono so woni de a ogina okay over
enti communism sani Karl Marx and Frank Engels etintimie no eno ne baaye a ebi before bu kwa brutri o kwa kusia de no masa ba momam samba bo samba eden o nkosusu awe de se dane o madwene enti no afi o mu hu so o mu ya Africans dem Marx aye ba ne ba be solve African problems eno ne adia from the buy na Karl Marx o no tintim communist manifesto ya o de baye no enu nti akidifo ababa ye me Marxist ono ankasa no ne mra no oti asase so no when who Marxist state bia se bi buy because 1883 and I said you fear asase so na yinka with this brilliant ayi no o mo ko ayi no mo nye more than 20 and a kokosie no. Now it was until 1917 so 1883 1917 ana asikafo ewo America international bankers one no finance the friend Bolshevik revolution Russia for revolution say one to Russia ahemfo no the Tsars ye two obagu na Vietnam established the first communist state ewo wiase entine ya na question me bisa me ho ne say nti obo mo na mo sorry na ye Marxist for aye bia no wo minima kwan ye ba ya Russia state ba ya ene ho mo nsem de o mo sua high up for no in the communist state high up from bourgeoisie omne bourgeois no and masses no proletarians tell what you win you can mass at Roma ya di aba ye practice war your friends in Russia in 1917 after revolution and we are the first communist state na say me kan no esikafo America wom na share say wom create by your next picture
edikane Wall Street and the Bolshevik Revolution. What's that picture into some family?
$20 ne kura nipa no ɛno no wɔn de kɔtaa akyire ɛma Russian Revolution no ebedi mu nso saa na tie dia Wall Street for na di ba dia yɛnkɔhwɛ second video.
Okay, your second video no abodin daso no ye Wall Street founded the communist Bolshevik revolution. Umfasa video ni mu man.
Nations was the money cartel's first attempt at world control, but Tsar Nicholas II of Russia caught on to their plot and sabotaged it. That proved to be a deadly mistake. Schiff, Warburg, Rockefeller, Harriman, and Morgan backed the uprisings that led to the 1917 Russian Revolution. Their strategy was to finance both sides of wars and revolutions, which gave them control over the winners, the losers, and the outcome. Between 1918 and 1921, 14 million Russians died from war and starvation under Lenin's Bolsheviks. By 1919, Lenin ran up a national debt to the Rothschild banksters of $60 billion, which put Russia firmly under their control. As Mayor Rothschild once said, "Give me control of a nation's money and I care not who makes her laws." To this day, the Rothschilds have stopped the heirs to the Tsar's fortunes from claiming their deposits held in Rothschild banks. Those fortunes are now worth an estimated $50 billion. Joseph Stalin, who was financed by the same money cartel, replaced Lenin as Russia's brutal new dictator. Using terror and death threats, Stalin's job was to industrialize Russia and turn communism into a powerful counterforce to democracy. Manufactured conflicts between these two powerful political forces would be the ideal excuse for all future wars and for dividing, conquering, and ruling the world.
But profits were not the only motive. There was also revenge. The money changers never forgave the Tsars for their support of Lincoln during the Civil War. Also, Russia was the last major European nation to refuse to give in to the privately owned central bank scheme. 3 years after World War I broke out, the Russian Revolution toppled the Tsar and installed the scourge of communism. Jacob Schiff of Kuhn-Loeb and Company bragged from his deathbed that he had spent $20 million towards the defeat of the Tsar. Money was funneled from England to support the revolution as well. Why would some of the richest men in the world financially back communism, the system that was openly vowing to destroy the so-called capitalism that made them wealthy? Researcher Gary Allen explained it this way.
If one understands that socialism is not a share the wealth program, but is in reality a method to consolidate and control the wealth, then the seeming paradox of super-rich men promoting socialism becomes no paradox at all. Instead, it becomes logical, even the perfect tool of power-seeking megalomaniacs. Communism, or more accurately socialism, is not a movement of the downtrodden masses, but of the economic elite.
As W. Cleon Skousen put it in his 1970 book, The Naked Capitalist,
power from any source tends to create an appetite for additional power. It was almost inevitable that these super-rich would one day aspire to control not only their own wealth, but the wealth of the whole world. To achieve this, they were perfectly willing to feed the ambitions of the power-hungry political conspirators who were committed to the overthrow of all existing governments and the establishments of a central worldwide dictatorship.
but what if these revolutionaries get out of control and try to seize power from the super-rich? After all, it was Mao Zedong who in 1938 stated his position concerning power. Political power grows out of the barrel of a gun. The Wall Street, London axis elected to take the risk. The master planners attempted to control revolutionary communist groups by feeding them vast quantities of money when they obeyed and contracting their money supply or even financing their opposition if they got out of control. Lenin began to understand that although he was the absolute dictator of the new Soviet Union, he was not pulling the financial strings. Someone else was silently in control.
The state does not function as we desired. The car does not obey. A man is at the wheel and seems to lead it, but the car does not drive in the desired direction. It moves as another force wishes.
Video a yɛkɔ share yi ɛyɛ video a ɛkyerɛ asɛm bi mu. Ɔse Wall Street no okɔ wa obenya ɔbobɔ din no obenya Rockefeller, Rothschild, Morgan nom ha ɔmo na yɛka Wall Street na ɛhɔ na ɔmo banks ne ɔmo nneɛma nhyehyɛeɛ nnwuma ahodoɔ no ɔmo offices na ɛhɔ na ɛwɔ na ɔmo take decisions ɛyɛ nnwuma ahodoɔ na saa mpanyinfo yi a yɛbɔ ɔmo din nyinaa no yɛsɛ ɔmo na ɔmo de sika kɔ tie after World War no ɛna ɔmo kɔ create yɛfɛ ne sɛ Russia kɔima Marxism nneɛma na watwɔtwɔ wawu kɔ no ɔmo ma ne kɔ pagya ayɛ ma ebi gyina hɔ saa nkurɔfoɔ yi a ɔmo yɛ saa adwuma ne kɔ create communism no capitalism ano ɔmo kɔ create yɛ no capitalism nso na ɔmo gyina mu na ɔmo de nya sika ɛyɛ den ti na ɛba ɔmo den na ɔmo pɛ nti a video no kyerɛ wo sɛ den na ɔmo pɛ nti a capitalism na mo yɛ ɔman a yɛhu nyinaa no capitalism governance kɔ so fine amama nya sika ɛyɛ den na afei mo kɔ fa saa sika ni bia mo nya no ɛde kɔ tai saa we yɛ ti a saa deɛ no nso so a mo hyehyɛ yɛ no so bɛko atia capitalism ɛna video ne kyerɛ sɛ ni nyinaa yɛ tirimupo a na ɔmo pɛ kwan bi ɔmo bɛ control wiase nipa nyinaa ɔmo bɛ ma nipa nyinaa yɛ nkoa enti no capitalism ne nkoa no enti me ma nipa nyinaa nyɛ nkoa enti ɔmo hwɛ yɛ na ɔmo pe we ne bɛka ho sɛ afei ɛbɛkyekyɛ nipa nim nipa na afei bɛyɛ mienu ebi bɛkɔ a na ɔmo de mpapa mu aba wiase papa numu no ɛna ɔmo bɛnya kwan na gɛsɛ ɔmo yɛ den na video no kyerɛ bibi asɛ first world war no kura no ɛno deɛ mintumi nka ɔfa bɛkyirim sɛ ɛyɛ ɔmo a na ɔmo fa so na nintin we nti na ɔmo de ba yo sɛ nyɛ no yɛkɔ ɔfa hɔ na ɔfa kyirim ɔfa mba kyɛ me da ase
na kyirim
yo
world war no so ayɛ nhyehyɛeɛ
yo
yɛmfa bra sɛ third world war kura bɛba
yo
enti no
yo
wobɛkenkan bibi ɔba ansa no video no wakyerɛkyerɛ mu yi ɛyɛ alternative to capitalism yɛde aba sɛ medi kan ka kyerɛ sɛ ɛyɛ two sides of the same coin until rich people no akɔ aba the next picture
okay yo the next picture no ɛyɛ origins of 9th century socialism mofa sa picture na nto so man
na sa picture yɛ da so yi ɛna ɛkyerɛ ewiase structure no sɛ capitalist system o say socialist system o wɔn mo wɔsoro no wɔn na ewima wura no wɔn tie wɔn de eat for the grassroots for na wɔn from that's a table yɛ yɛ kan say
platform ɛwɔ grassroots for no so
grassroots for wɔn mo bi na kura shovel a extreme right wɔn mo no enti wɔn de wɔn ba say ɛba abɛso enti ɛnɛ yɛ kɔ America sɛ democrats for na so omo ye omo ho sɛ omo ye socialist for aye bia slaughter na sisa
tabio
grassroots for sɛ omo ha no omo e na so boy
omo ana omo gusa
ye na edidi amamo tom de omo hyase oba Britain sa oba Ghana sa ye wo democracy property owning democracy for and ye wo socialist for aye bia platform na sisa
ever there be o
enti have a dey baby enti me can say two sides of the same thing and then kenka nyama e ho no
NDC are the same
kai ade no mami
yo ne e wo so ne origins of 9th century okay platform na e wo ho no okay ohwe esoro na o say we eat for all esoro for no say we eat for all me ba to mo fa ayi nto so mayen picture na ɛda so ya mo ɛno no wan yɛ kenkan no mo fa nto so mayen so for no atwa ho say we eat for all oba benkum so na ase ho no bo so ma twa say we work for all ana oba ni van so for so mo say we feed all we a pyramid of capitalist system enye asem getwa
enwa na wo bia Would you can't kind of socialism you say, communism you say, two sides of the same coin.
I'm the year in that down.
And now besides a world war. Yes, world war. Albert Pike. The war not buying. First World War you buy. Sanya you bet me a create communism. Second World War e buy. Sanya you bet me a communism to me was spreading home. Somebody you can't sorry say. And you can't say enkodrum ra. Ye here communism be no. You be here free ho. Now sorry asaba. Ampeni ampa communism ababa ni na miwiase over 70 something years. That sorry you say communism afiase. Ya hu resistance ba kunkura o baby. Wa na wadwene you say.
Shisheye over.
Shisheye ni achi.
Shisheye pa.
Ye di ba be. Ento be kan ha. The Second World War.
Okay.
So we can last week.
Yo.
So, NG.
I say be an obi show. Na no so hu. Albert Pike's
Overcome First World War.
Okay.
And son of the Second World War.
Okay. Albert Pike's to Mazzini, August 15th, 1871. 3 world wars. Papa we wacho a 33-degree Freemason. And yasem ketwa ofa. The book of Faba Nanusa Semukwa. Albert Pike, in a letter that he wrote to Giuseppe Mazzini, founder of the mafia, dated August 15th, 1871, graphically outlined plans for 3 world wars that were seen as necessary to bring about the one world order. And one marvels at how accurately it has predicted events that have already taken place, closely following his demonic vision. The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the Tsars in Russia and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism.
I don't hear a video.
Okay. The divergences caused by the Agento, that is agents of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires, will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments and in order to weaken the religions. As a prime objective of the First World War, the Warburg, Morgan, Rothschild, and other international private banking dynasties provided financial support for the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917, led by Vladimir Lenin, Vladimir Ulyanov, and Leo Trotsky. Lev Bronstein, both Jews, to topple the Tsars and establish communism in Russia. Another Jew, Jacob Schiff, alone bankrolled a colossal amount of $20 million $20 million towards that cause. Wow. No, and now $20 million US dollars. Why are they? The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascist and the political Zionist. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionists be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine.
Defeated Hitler. Nazism was destroyed.
And Palestine, you create here, and then Israel. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm.
Mo why are there? And the world war so yeah orchestrate.
Hey, the third world war no plan ya. No. Okay.
It is a hunu dia mentu amasem so. Enti Africans are na wa portray exposure omunye nyaayini. Political education ahodo. Na Manchester 1945 the 5th Pan-African Congress a hono na would be African leaders nyina call Manchester ho Emma Pan-Africanists akuku dam bi to say George Padmore any Du Bois na ginger these young African would-be leaders. Kwame Nkrumah of Gold Coast, Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya, Hastings Banda of Nyasaland. Almost said in a Bayer Malawi.
Okay.
Or more originally in Nyasaland. And some other guys be Peter Abraham or no South Africa. Omunyina Kobi. Into omu feel hono munu na afi maku bia saba the crew. And they versate the rise of nationalism. Ye pefa hundie. And yanko we next video no.
Okay.
1945 ahoboa omu ye in Manchester.
Okay. The next video no the 1945 Manchester Pan-African Congress. Mufasa video nengu maye.
George Padmore's ideologies centered on anti-imperialism, Pan-Africanism, and the unification of African and Caribbean peoples. He advocated for the liberation of colonized nations and the empowerment of black workers globally. Kwame Nkrumah spent endless hours discussing colonial issues with Padmore, who saw his potential and quickly recruited him as a high-level organizer, administrator, and rapporteur in the Pan-African Congress of 1945. This particular conference, which was held in Manchester, had attendees from Liberia, Nyasaland, Togoland, Nigeria, the Gold Coast, and notably included prominent figures like Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya and Peter Abrahams of South Africa. The event was instrumental in energizing anti-colonial movements across Africa and the diaspora, laying the groundwork for the eventual independence of numerous African nations. Furthermore, the Manchester Congress significantly boosted Kwame Nkrumah's international reputation, and it also enabled him to forge stronger relationships with global leaders, including Malawi's Dr. Hastings Kamuzu Banda and W.E.B. Du Bois from the United States.
Wake Up Africa, Jumedi Royal TV so. Na video yi chiro kwan nam so Pan-Africanism eba ya ebeye ya afedi omo sori ya ye peyefa hudie no video we chire kwan nam so Pan-Africa omo yilidi ye ma Pan-Africanism eba ye over.
Nti after 1945 no ena Kwame Nkrumah Secretary Julius Nyerere Jomo Kenyatta ene others no omo gina ba omo Nkrumah omo betiatia mu say ye self government say nye fa hundie na ye yi imperialism for no efiri ho na ya na program is so make I say obi the message be by ye keka colonialism ya no bi say ade na abrofu conscious and e bo machi de say nipa nim no won kai ne say yes abrofu no ko e ba omu ja institutions a wo setting no up with European ideas omu ja wa chiri ene enso be inherit ye buri won ha say ano ye no e be de no nya advantage bibia ni we be ba e be ba be bo enti no buri ni de okọ we the institutions no wa be inherit umu na afi de wo bu ama buri no wanya ede bebre enti anu mu no a ye pefa ahudie ya misi form eba behwe Ghana for next picture bodino daily graphic Independence Day 6 March 1957 the birth of Ghana, our beloved country is free forever.
Move us a picture no into some for my. Interesting.
And 6 March, na Wednesday, 1957. Graphic by front page, headline is saying on it here. Enti e buy. Ade be so. Enu achi. Let us say nya fa hodi anisa. Na me pese ye kotie Dr. Kwame Nkrumah mani speech no kan bibi. Na sa bibi no mesa rezi as we move along. The next video.
Video no Dr. Kwame Nkrumah independence speech at Old Polo Grounds. Pacho sa video no mufa engu mayen. Okay.
That new African is ready to fight his own battle and show that after all, the black man is capable of managing his own affairs. There is a new African in the world. That new African is ready to fight his own battle and show that after all, the black man is capable of managing his own affairs. There is a new African in the world.
Where your video you are Kwame Nkrumah, doctor. Aja, we sorry Gina or Kasa. Ane, you go for na of our bika nonka.
Bibi American in
okay.
But Monkai, now the African is capable of managing his own affairs.
Okay. Yo.
And what she Osa okay you say Ghana independence no and we pay just other African countries and you found. Yeah, next video no by me who say 1960 17 African countries in your found. You can see video. After Ghana 1957 no ye ban 1960 no 17 African countries obi anya ne fa hodi asane de enije ni de you can video.
Yo 1960 Africa year of independence. Pacho umi hesa video no. Mehwe asana na nya zankuta o ze na amambo nim se o abibi ma yade ye ho sesi ade ye ni agye wo hwe asana nkofo asana no mu dina nanso kwasiko no gya kwatia no mu che no mu serious enti video a kire one within a year nimu no number of African countries are enya omfa hodie enya om independence over
yo kovi me da se ne ontwetwe mu enti ko ba se countries ya omu nyina enya omfa hodie no omu mpanyimfo no omo si omu tirimu pose ekwan bia so omu de Marxism socialism ele ba ba chichire omu man ho na me sa ko Dr. Nkrumah's speech. The African is now capable of managing his own affairs with a European idea. And the African idea then how they buy what they buy chichire woman. The same Marxist idea no. Other countries no munya independence and no munya idea na si. Scatter na bakru one. It is Marxism no na ye the other side of capitalism. Because if Bruni were ideology are financial because financial market what it's in such a way say we are socialist so we are capitalist so or can I so be me on one in some no be me on enti young independence about Africa video no aye kwa no e kire yen senia leaders ni nyina obia de Marxism ewie no obia country hwe asise team you hear next video.
The next video na bodino the seeds of Marxism socialist fail in post independent Africa. Mufasa video no engumaye.
The late 1950s and 60s would turn out to be one of the defining periods in modern African history, as all across the continent, the successful push for national independence by Pan-African pioneers like Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, Julius Nyerere of Tanzania, and Nigeria's Nnamdi Azikiwe would mark the end of the colonial era in Africa. All across the continent, new national flags, emblems, anthems, and currencies were unveiled, and the leaders that fought bravely to win independence for their countries were hailed as national heroes to be celebrated and revered for generations to come. Universities and airports were named after them. Their faces were printed on national currencies, and statues were built in their honor. No longer shackled by the dictates of their former oppressors, Africa's new leaders were now free, in theory at least, to build their nations as they thought best. For many of them, the first step in the continent's post-colonial renaissance would be a complete rejection of all vestiges of colonialism. And according to the likes of Nkrumah, Leopold Senghor, and Modibo Keita, capitalism and free market economics was one of the primary mechanisms of colonial exploitation that needed to be completely eradicated from African society. Marxist socialism, a philosophy which placed the responsibility for the economic well-being of the people on the shoulders of the government as opposed to private individuals and businesses, was hailed by many of Africa's leaders as the best way forward for Africa, and it would go on to be officially adopted in some form or other by nearly all of Africa's newly independent states. According to Kwame Nkrumah, socialist transformation was the only way to completely eradicate the colonial structure of Ghana's economy. For Julius Nyerere of Tanzania, his new nation will be guided by the principle of Ujuma, which was in essence a combination of the Marxist socialist ideas he was introduced to while studying at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland and traditional African beliefs on the importance of family and community. Leopold Senghor of Senegal would also infuse similar ideas into a philosophy that he and his contemporaries termed negritude. Kenneth Kaunda of Zambia, Marian Ngwabi of Congo, and even Mobutu Sese Seko of the DRC also espoused some variation of the same principles. Tanzania's first constitution boldly proclaimed that the Tanzanian government would work to prevent the accumulation of wealth, which it saw as inconsistent with the existence of a classless society. Under Nkrumah, the Ghanaian government pledged to work towards a complete ownership of the economy by the state. And to achieve this goal, all kinds of laws were introduced to enable government control over every aspect of the economy, from agriculture to banking, mining, wages, food prices, house rents, and even mass media. Within just 13 years after independence, nearly 6,000 prices for over 700 different product groups were controlled directly or indirectly by the Ghanaian government. Many private businesses were also acquired by the government, and a host of government-run enterprises were established in their place. Over in Tanzania, the Arusha Declaration of 1967 officially established Tanzania as a socialist state, and in the following years, several banks, insurance companies, and foreign-owned businesses were taken over by the Tanzanian government. The government also rolled out its Operation Vijiji Villagization program, which was aimed at the collectivized production and distribution of farm crops by the government. Starting in 1973, the Tanzanian government ordered the compulsory relocation of over 13 million peasants into about 8,000 cooperative villages, and by the end of the 1970s, around 91% of the entire rural population had been moved into government-run farming villages, where they would begin producing crops to be sold at government-mandated prices. Over in Guinea, President Sékou Touré's Marxism in African clothes philosophy would lead to the banning of all commercial activities not approved by the government, and police roadblocks were set up all around the country to monitor all internal trade. The Guinean state held a complete monopoly on all foreign trade, and smuggling became punishable by death, and black market currency trading was punishable by 15 to 20 years in prison. The regime also nationalized a large number of privately owned farms, and food prices were fixed at artificially low levels by government decree. Even in the relatively few self-proclaiming capitalist African countries like the Ivory Coast, Kenya, and Nigeria, the drive towards government ownership and collectivization was embraced with open arms. Under the military leadership of General Yakubu Gowon, the Nigerian government declared in 1970 that a truly independent nation could not allow its objectives to be distorted by the manipulation of powerful foreign investors, and so it was vital for the government to acquire and control on behalf of the Nigerian society the greater proportion of the productive assets of the country. Putting words into action, the Nigerian government would go on to acquire approximately 40% of all major banks, 55% of the petroleum industry, 40% of the insurance market, and 100% of the telecommunications sector by the end of the 1970s. Unfortunately, despite the many glowing promises of a bright new dawn and prosperity for all, virtually all of these schemes had little to no success across the board, as policies supposedly aimed at creating abundance and reducing inequality ended up creating food shortages, black markets, and untold pain and suffering to millions, as various government-owned enterprises failed to reach their targets, and the concentration of power in large bureaucracies resulted in eye-watering levels of corruption and abuses of power. Ghana's government-run enterprises were so inefficient that even by as early as the 1966 military overthrow of the Nkrumah regime, only 4 out of 64 state enterprises were financially self-sustaining. Over in Nigeria, government-run enterprises became nothing more than money-making machines for corrupt officials. In 1975, the Nigerian government commissioned a steel-making furnace known as the Ajaokuta steel mill. Either by willful ignorance or by administrative incompetence, the steel mill ended up being built on a site that was too far from the region's iron and coal deposits, rendering it basically useless. Over the course of 4 decades, Russian, German, and French technicians will be paid billions to make the mill operational with little or no success. By the year 2017, the steel mill, which was reported to have reached 98% completion as far back as 1994, had still not produced a single unit of steel, even though the federal government had spent over $10 billion on it over the course of 34 years, and claimed it would require another $2 billion to complete the remaining 2% of the project. By 2019, the mill had attracted $8 billion in additional government subsidies, and still without producing a single beam of steel, over 100,000 workers were reported to be listed on its payroll. The Republic of Guinea, which as of independence was considered to have the biggest potential in all of Francophone Africa, thanks to its possession of 1/4 of the world's reserves of bauxite and its abundant deposits of gold and diamonds, would go from being a net exporter of food to Africa and Europe prior to independence to spending 1/3 of its foreign exchange earnings on food imports by the time of Sékou Touré's death in 1984. By 1981, a food crisis had gripped Tanzania, turning it from a net exporter into a net importer of basic foodstuffs, as the government had to import 1 million tons of additional grain to fight starvation. In the 8 years spanning 1974 to 1982, Tanzania's per capita income stagnated at $210 as the production of basic food crops such as maize, rice, and wheat dropped by almost 50%. The level of devastation in Zimbabwe was almost unparalleled. As of gaining independence in 1980, President Robert Mugabe openly stated his intention to make Zimbabwe into a one-party nation, ruled by his ZANU party, which he described as a truly Marxist-Leninist party. Inheriting an economy that was ravaged by glaring racial inequalities under the former white minority regime, Mugabe's Marxist philosophy led to the implementation of all sorts of government controls on the economy, the establishment of government-run enterprises, and the forcible seizure of white-owned commercial farmlands without compensation. The result was a progressive decline in the Zimbabwean economy. Corn production dropped sharply from 2 million tons in 1981 to 620,000 in 1983. Food shortages became rampant and the cost of living rose astronomically. By 2008, the country was effectively bankrupt as the inflation rate reached a gobsmacking 2 million% and the unemployment rate reached 80%. By the very next year, the nation's currency had collapsed and the US dollar was adopted in exchange for the Zimbabwean dollar. During the entire course of the Mugabe regime, an estimated 4 million Zimbabweans are believed to have fled to neighboring countries in search of greener pastures. But how did it all go so?
Na Royal Television so na chese video na ma hwe no kwasikoko na me bɔ me nsɛm ma no adentia hwɛ enkofo no nyansa pa de chese yempanyifo ana mpo ye de yeru ahye wan ne enim so omba ye bibi kura no kwanyina sanyina no mo ka mo hye omo chese you can't do without kwasikoko nhye enti no wo ye hinawo wahu wo ye hinawo wanye marxism a obe capitalism marxism ni socialism ana capitalism ni eka ho we no mahyehyɛ amayen woyɛ hina ube wuram enti wo pagya akosoro yɛ den kra na obehwe fam because omo ana udi omachi over
weda sikovi enti sɛ me kan no kosikoko de no wonim sɛ woyɛ marxist woyɛ capitalist because oba economic and financial system ni mu a ono control bibia enti onyawo e ma nkonko ye se o me socialist nti muhum mobo kakra na me ana me capitalist de obaya no be enti eto da ya na empanyimfo no so na omuka o sese de ye hu kire ye no we need economic emancipation we na na aka kire no
structural adjustment
wa ma independence na wie uhu asa na nkofo sa obi anu agi yeso e free forever ehun asa na edi ye no ave de obaya obehu se nje sa o omo my political freedom no my economic freedom last week ede rom kan raw materials a na ebehwe amamode aba world trade mopu eno ana ebe mmai nti sa na tie dia yakọ next pictures no quickly.
Your next pictures no a daily graphic 4th June 1997 seek economic emancipation Mugabe employs African states but mufasa picture nento so maye
ejave no ho ye marxism o country no be fiase along the line of isebia eja wanya freedom and so economically we say ntisa. Next picture.
Daily graphic 31st July 1998 Africa needs economic freedom. Africa needs economic freedom. President declares at the opening of Emancipation Day. Mufasa picture neto so maye. Okay.
Next picture.
Okay. Next picture no trilateralism. The Trilateral Commission and Elite Planning for World Management, edited by Holikla, page 3, overview. Mufasa picture no ento so enfamaye. Okay, over bacho.
Kai mami.
Okay. Trilateralism. Trilateralists don't make a habit of speaking directly and openly to us, the mass of world citizens, whether they are in government or out of government, but from their publications and other statements, as well as by their actions, we can glean a clear sense of their ideology, goals, and strategy. Key themes of trilateralism are captured in the following statements. The public and leaders of most countries continue to live in a mental universe which no longer exists. Wow. A world of separate nations and have great difficulties thinking in terms of global perspectives and interdependence. The liberal premise of a separation between the political and economic realm is obsolete. Issues related to economics are at the heart of modern politics.
The other now could be say you need economic emancipation. Hey, I just say yanking kind idea yan tiasi and then so you dear chira yeah. Now you better oba de broni ba so ma twe aso twe no na ni say omo twe aso to the extent say one best say earlier civilization near my before I achieve any nyina no eso omo huhu bibia tugu enti by that no ye the before destiny e ko sha brofo nsem ana destiny nso a question of who controls your history and the control destiny. And abrofu the policies about family planning, democracy, a honey your history say. And you also that to train humade badia and you know crowd history and you crowd destiny. Sanya now the civilization by and a mansa musa wa ni na ho ni na ku. And then wow to assassin cry the terranelios about the assassin no ama was soon say who profile who did na dia ba and that just say account there and cow she enti wenti and e ba be kan scripture bi ye de kaka ye hu say enough from say your problem no your politicians wo mu ye in control aye bi amo na mo ye say mo betimi aba be di so amaye enye ntokwa but say ye hu say issue na ho no eso chem enti me say me come your politician come jam di ato because at the end me hu say e beyond any party oba de say no me e na odi aka abibifo ye na akwakoji aka ye ho wunya hunu no me no kra na say wa prescribe aba wo ju fa hu die no na adwene say e kina me pese me ye industry ti say de broni aye ya wo akola to ho a ontena say azan wa wia o de uba ya o peso be sorry ya no nya bibi e na no de ko gingam ye e na atehwe yenko Deuteronomy 28:48.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies.
Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies,
which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, until he have destroyed thee. Asemi mo do.
Yenko he picture it was. You shall serve your enemies.
Picture it was here, New African, May 2003. Herero. Okay. Herero tribesmen.
What?
1. Okay.
The scripture thou shalt serve thy enemies in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness. And then you
Africa.
Share the ato
New African, May 2003. Herero tribesmen. 2.
Shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed you. 1 minute, hear next video, your last video for the day. Here can the kasa si baby no majama.
What German did to the Hereros?
Colonial period.
Mama, you that video no.
During the colonial period, Germany established several colonies in Africa, including Togo, Cameroon, and Namibia. In Namibia, German colonial forces committed genocide against the Herero and Nama people, resulting in the deaths of tens of thousands of people between 1904 and 1908. The colonial authorities also forcibly recruited laborers and imposed harsh conditions on the local population. During the colonial period, Germany established several colonies in Africa, including Togo, Cameroon, and Namibia. In Namibia, German colonial forces committed genocide against the Herero and Nama people, resulting in the deaths of tens of thousands of people between 1904 and 1908. The colonial authorities also forcibly recruited laborers and imposed harsh conditions.
Where quotation ya kokan ya Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 48. And no who video and offer ima yehwe offer.
That's it. Video look and say we shall serve our enemies. And before politicians, a paper enemies in every home. Yes, we be development partners. Yeah, we next picture.
Your next picture, hey, Papa, way our terms. The Accra Daily Mail, 2nd July 2008. Ghana's development partners pledge 1.7 billion US dollars support. We pass our picture into Somalia. Hey,
next picture.
Over who need ya tisa dino over who edina is a modeno. Development partners. Daily Graphic, 17th March 2011. 4 partners support Ghana to manage funds effectively. Move us up and into some mind. Hey. Yo. Oh. Okay.
Next picture.
Yo. Next picture here. Daily Graphic, 22nd September 2011. Development partners pledge support for SADA. Mufasa picture no ento so informayen. Hey. You see how they development partners so. Yo, offer bato aba.
Next picture.
Next picture here. Daily Graphic, 29th January 2025. Where they are nanu ya. Development partners mark International Day of Education. Pato mufasa picture ento so maye.
Etiwene bisasa ye bia ye leaders wo muche. Ya ha ona se ana. Yes, Uncle Deuteronomy 28.
Okay.
Deuteronomy 28, 43 to 45.
Okay. Deuteronomy chapter 28 now. You call 43 to 45 now. Okay. 43. The strangers that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. Aye. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. 45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed. Because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee.
And where you see the stranger within us will lend to us,
and will rise high. Daily Graphic, 21st July 1998. World Bank gives 2.87 billion US dollars to sub-Saharan African countries. No first picture no into some farmer. Enemies no, and they share. Oma rise higher pa. And na nyomo de ye no.
Next picture.
Daily Graphic, 23rd October 1999. Exim Bank to double loans to Africa. But your first picture no into some maye.
Next picture.
Daily Graphic, 30th September 2003. Japan promises
1 billion.
Okay, Japan promises 1 billion US dollars to sub-Saharan Africa. Oh, yo, mufasa picture into Somalia. Okay, next one no, the Accra Daily Mail, 7 September 2007. World Bank commits record 5.7 billion US dollars to Africa. Yo. Move us up picture so into so many. Okay.
Next picture.
Daily Graphic, 3rd June 2009. IMF to double lending to Africa. Yo. Move us up picture into so MIA.
Next picture.
List of World Bank's top borrowers in Africa. Kenya ranks 4th. The picture move us up picture into so MIA.
Until 2024.
Okay.
Africans are a borrow sikana. Ghana toss 7. Kenya toss 4.
Yo.
Next picture.
Next picture here. The Statesman weekending. 14th May 2000. World Bank lent 3.5 billion US dollars to Ghana. Enya sem ketwa. Nyi kumakura. Mufande so maye. Okay, ofan bachoba.
Next picture.
From Nkrumah to Akufo-Addo. From Nkrumah to Akufo-Addo here are all the 17 times Ghana ran to the IMF. Mufasa picture no ento so mfamaye.
Next picture.
Daily Graphic, 12 December 2024. We will renegotiate IMF World Bank deals. President-elect Mahama. We will renegotiate IMF World Bank deals. President-elect Mahama. Hey! Daily Graphic, 23rd January 2025. Ghana's IMF dependency. A 66-year dance with economic bailouts.
And last picture.
Last picture here. Daily Graphic, 28th February 2025. Public debt stands at 721 billion Ghana cedis. President Mahama reviews. Mufasa picture no ento so mfamaye.
Manuesi. Ofa to aso this week.
Yo. Ofa se na no esi. Anu nti oba de ya adoma ye beto aso next week. Mma me fa messages kakra bi na afei ne ho no. Ye nto aso. Aha, messages kakra bi na membra efam yenu no aso. We say na nabosompem akwatia all this education you giving us, still Christians are defending these deceptions. Yo, I know they only defend you. Okay, we say greetings, great teachers. This Safo watching you live from Sahi, Fusukrum. The question is, when will the white controlling system mechanism, foreign invasions, be brought to a halt? Are leaders in this, our generation of today, ready to fight like the likes of Nkrumah, Jomo Kenyatta, and Sankara to free its people from the elite's policy and control system? Africa indeed needs leaders who have African black people at heart, like the rising Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso. We should all rise up to free our minds to reclaim what belongs to we Africans to gain total economic freedom. O message you wa. Aya munye njenti amfa maye. Of atese ye nyina no kura no wanya marxism a. Ye nyina gu kwansa no Traore enu bia no ye. Enu bia no ye. Onsisa ye. Master Israel, welcome. Please, do you have branches outside Ghana? Where do you get all these realistic information from? Bravo, keep it up. Yo, to support your presentation. Okay. Yo, Bisasa Infani Nyangomano. Good afternoon, sir. Please, I'm enjoying your program. Please keep it up. I wish to join you people, but I do go to church on Saturdays. So is there any other days you meet apart from 7 day? Yo, or no question Obisa, I don't know. So it's a world war. So it's a world war or what? Please answer. World war never say okay, what is book new? 3 world wars, 2 aba akabako. Good afternoon. Wafani di amba wafahwe yanka home. We say God bless you, chairman. Watching live from Enche, Western North, Ebenezer Otu. Yade a year messages no ebesi ha na yatoa ne aka no so phone no afei me kɔ Israel ho Israel ma kɔ ababiom me say bibia iboko oh yeah aha ene de obi kura se omo akɔ aba se ene de wo hu ani anu ti me nsɛm le kura no aha ntentem so me jai program no e de ma me chia ahwefo eje wo so bibia obi ahwe bibia chia no ya ha mo nyina no ho asɛm na kan sia no na se obi panashow ase unhu de yo panashow na eya de abafode ye no ye hunin as Africa if you o ma ya ma say de bibia o ma bibia e be bibia no efe papa na onu obi dig game obi ge game also bibia that's how one tiasia want to know that. How do you play it? You don't understand the game. We need a problem. Until on the Bruni or ye biano, the Binu any effect. Now, I dare our say when ye say Africa, the Nabrofu. Into me yet, Professor Soda. You're a quite fast sword, now you boo your mind. You lead your life as a black people. Before Bruni Oba say, we are hopeful. You see, centrally, you see this young couple communicating. Na Bruni no my near Cremo. No young couple 3 and Pible. Yeah, when I mean I come, God is holy. So we about the same piano, so the conquer yemu or the bar. Until African for no, that's a ubi bunun sa on quiet fee on your duane. My bema crano on your beardy. Meboa, Sabbath good. Adiana ya na ehu ye. See your question ya. Not see a bar. Omudi nsuo esi kwan ho. Na ahaba bigum. What to be a horror now on Saho? A sacrament and refuge. Is he fear fiano? Bruni, no, maybe David, not before and the year. Conquer the year. Good. Or Babu the sacrament pa on court in Sia Tinum. In Sua Tinema, Domunia Bisa Sabino, uncle. Or do the Possoa, not the Bagatam will be our Kobe or bar, said Jenna, said Breme. Yes, Sabra no, na ye Benjamin Bre. Na Boni, yes, I know Boni or na de. Nti ye de na enye ye Benjamin Bre. Hey, sir. Wo ko ohen ho no mo a, make sure say hwe otumfo pokoale o firi mo no. Na mo kuma ase. Ne ne ma bi na tifie, ma afia, onyini. Yes, you call Mensia. A ma 2 months on and channel, or some be uncle. And so, if you are a you here, or say, there you or Mohon, Timogu, or Mobo, sir. Ah, don't say the fire. What do you mean? About dear, I some mamma got a mamma about what? Soft Quaku. Yes, that is of war. I did not know. So, anyway, I'm not imagine me. Hey, so now, Babu is not what is there. Or should I be or any a concron? Yes, honey. For a pokuale and what talk until your first film fan quiet in fear. So the first time, I'm not doing so. I'm a power, okay, I will dream. Yeah. Me share for you, no. No, me encounter with the Damascus. Calculus course. Calculus course. And the moon said, Abraway, Owu. Sana on the Orca. I said, wow. Yeah. Broni buy no or the asol buy. Nana oya debo ni unamu a
ahase ne nye bida ne yɛ bɛn na gopon sana ɔba wuru kwa bo sɛ yɛ ma efunu ne yɛ enti no bebe funu biara no ɔhene sɛ nipa ne tutu biara mpo no ɔnkɔ hɔ ei afa afara ha yɛ o abɔfa adwen I'm telling you, don't come. Yeah. And until na say okododo eseye na onyini ntino okwa ode akonya aso ano ni etwa the portion ma no ho no wu a ebesie no nti okododo ho no ma no say ba o say kwaku na mfa onan kofie gyina ha na akwasansuo obana habangum odi gum na ho an se wo saa so ukwa akohye adwaye atana o hye no memfa ngo fa gu bucketem na fansuo gu ho nse enti sam no no munim na yenyu no yesu ade no nse na wo hu ene nti na na yebra no yehu ye ho ano no enti sana tie dia ena na yahwe ase sana tie pa dia ene obi anya sodoko yes yen sa echi
asem kase pa na akofa
ntano yeah me ko obi wuyi ena me ko ye na ma no say asa aso de mo nka edini free aboche bae no fegi no ko hye mo no na no nya di ntran nkakra bi na aba nkaka kra bi hey
sorry dem go
enka akra bi
adio
kowe sana yakopon aka ho asem Matthew 24 verse 28
Matthew chapter 24 verse 28 I'll say for wheresoever the carcass is there will the eagles be gathered together. Okay. Chino
or say bibia efunu ewo no eho ena amwa
mpete no
mpete egboboma no enti no nampanifo no muhu say efunu eho nte kemofo we dey to choma mo alakoba alofo owu pe straight to na kwase abodome straight koto atwene na bodo de asore baaye no o de kan ho baaye for the time kasa na say enne o konso bebebe mu a de tetitis nsoro no founder no owu a afode ho no mo ene efie no
asem kase pa
ofa doni ba no o de baaye nto me hu say de mpenifo no yo hanam na e twem furufun bia no eye fucking yeni mi
eye how
yeni mi yeah radio Bible Leviticus 21 verse 11
Leviticus 21 verse 11
afa bibia basa you say a lifestyle quite
Leviticus chapter 21 verse 11 I say neither shall he go into any dead body nor defile himself for his father or for his mother pacho
enunti na obi kwa yi a obefie a odeka kwa dwale ehoro eyata ade no mwa adigu ho onfa eyata da no fa kwa
me fa 12 ni so I say 11 years say neither shall he go into any dead body nor defile himself for his father or for his mother neither shall he go out of the sanctuary nor profane the sanctuary of his God for the crown of the anointing oil of his God is upon him. I am the Lord.
Onyame ye kronkron. Onyankopon na obo ye no, oye kronkron. Nti o ma mra. Se obi be pa aye funu ehon nte ye me no.
Ye na tam kwa so
enu nti no so ohene eko funu ho a incense a o me se na ho bi kwa bun ho ofe no papa. Tama do da no na he fu penefo ba ahemfo no mo me se bit na no me hinti eh
ne ma e ba
oh
ya ga say we ya o se ontimi nkwa aso dem na say bia o
Dabi na broni ba no o no so no ba no ade na o ye no krom hono no e na o de ba ye hwe Pope John Paul owu ye no o mko sie no no so ko tu funu no e de kwa aso dem hono mo be asofo je o ma sermon no deliver message no hono de funu ko share my first video.
Okay. MC Abacha Munja first video no efa nguma ye.
The secretary of John Paul II, Stanislaw Zivis, was present 6 years ago when the Pope's tomb was enclosed. Today, he was visibly moved as he bent to kiss the coffin during its transfer. With him were the nuns in charge of the domestic service of John Paul II, as well as the Cardinal Tarcisio Bertone. It was a simple ceremony that was the first of the planned events for the beatification. The casket of John Paul II is composed of 3 sections. One of wood, which is what was seen during the funeral. Another is made of lead, and the third is of timber, which is what is seen here. At the end, the coffin was covered by a solemn white and gold fabric and then placed in front of the tomb of St. Peter. It will remain there until after the beatification ceremonies. The slab of stone covering the tomb to this point will be given away to the new church dedicated to the Blessed John Paul II, which is being built in Krakow, the hometown of Karol Wojtyła.
Every video I share ye kire popa wawu yakotu na fe ye kwakosie no e wa sorry dem ankasa bi ye puppet na ankasa so e na ye kosie no
video beto so mi no e bia ye di fun ko share ye
okay
na share de na African for tell ye tie e udani funu tell ho nti wakosi o kwa pa o bi fi kwa mpo no se ni ma ba ho no nsa
yansa
nyankopon fie e he do me di funu ko share
yo video to so mienu no we first one here omutu ye no ne to so mienu no ye hwe ba bi a omudi funu akose
Deus dives in misericordia, qui beatum Ioannem Paulum Papa, universe ecclesiae tue preesse voluisti. Benedicate vos omnipotens Deus, Pater, et Filius, et Spiritus Sanctus. Amen.
yeah where you may kiss the bride I suffer to true omusi omu no mu gire nyame anam e hira nyame ma ti niema ho a omu ye no afi ni nyame se oti no eno na omo ye Israel
kome omo yes ad na omo de bag na ase no African ase no in Brazil
tentem so
enti no se bibiniti asore na asore no the founder na so wu a omo ye mle bi se yin sie no asore dem honom na yin fa ohonye prayer tower Johana loko akofre papa na wo no nyame so bruni ye bi na bruni asore no odi agba Africa mo ye hwe TB Joshua ibi mu sie no bruni ayo enti yeso so
bruni wa hasi ya no
se wa no
azawo yo abuja we de munya sa video no fengu ma TB Joshua bi esie no ni ekoso
O God Almighty, our Lord, make us watchful and keep us faithful as we await the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, so that when he shall appear, he may not find us sleeping in sin, but active in his service and joyful in his praise. May the Lord, when he comes, find us watching and waiting in faith. We look for the coming of the kingdom. Let us remember Prophet Joshua's final words: watch and pray.
Wani guso a wo hwe eye Wake Up Africa Jumadi wo Royal Television so na TB Joshua a yesie no e wo na sorry dem na sorry bia ogina ya na oye nyankomade ahodo sayade no e ho a o se yesie no ho Israel
Numbers
okay
9:6
okay
asale o the bonity ko ye no sa no de ba
Numbers 9:6 okay, Numbers chapter 9:6 I say, and there were certain men, okay, and there were 6, and there were certain men who were defiled by the dead body of a man, that they could not keep the Passover on that day, and they came before Moses and before Aaron on that day. Metwaso, Echosi 10. Okay, I say, and those men said unto him, we are defiled by the dead body of a man. Wherefore are we kept back, that we may not offer an offering of the Lord in his appointed season among the children of Israel? And Moses said unto them, stand still, and I will hear what the Lord will command concerning you.
Thank you.
9. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, 10. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, if any man of you or of your posterity shall be unclean by reason of a dead body, or be in a journey afar off, yet he will keep the Passover unto the Lord.
Enuntino. Onyankopon asam na de kasa.
Sir.
Okwaso dem na de fruku ba so dem mo a. Mati. Mati. Tuwa o heme no. Aya o fe no. Onyankopon na kasa no. Onyankopon na kasa no. Mo de ofa ngura ha no mo. Mo de mo kire amuseye aya asa
ka ho. Aso dem kwa mo de amuseye ka ho.
Bruni won ade bia oyo no krom ho bia no
tie nyame
fa tetia onyankopon ya ba ha no mo na word bia ekrisofo ka awreho na me kan bi na me nim ja therefore
you adu say ade we di adanse say asema onyankopon ka say sankofo de be omde chastisement nu say e confirm
yeah
isan say omade bia omo ye bia no eh na etie nyame na gese nyame de omo ya so twe man yan pa
so on punish
yen to bi omo ye bia tie nyame
hwe o mo program ma boche no mo say asem de mo ye no de mo ka no e wo ha no mo mo hu no life na broni ene bibini o mo nka bibini ko so na broni ya na broni mpe bibini asam so oye bibi na say the fa na o search na wo na say de ya oboa enti de o mo de ba e bia no na ye embrace hwe afole eye ade bia awreho hwe
dangerous
o kwaso na bi na say oye born again enti do ko hyensuo mu na meja no nyame aba no I'm just going to no.
Bro. Bro.
Oba. Me na me bobi no kwasu.
Wow.
Yeah. Sana the word born again no. We be free by.
Okay.
Mo book bi a me de mekenkan. Be say me de to so.
Okay.
O mo hwe book no.
Okay.
A book no eye okotofo book a abofo ayusu na buchire no mo say African fo mo ye bia beboa mo enti no book no ye de bremo but book no what is wrong
why book no ento so emfa emaye na of Israel be ba na yakenkan
secret societies
okay
Africans way forward
okay the secret societies Africans way forward that book no mo fa ento so mfa maye okay
The
secret societies, Africans way forward. Okay. Yo.
Africa foi, here bofono. When ya boy, your son bosom, your son bonsam. Into some ya, motuma komanu more.
Okay. Book no niayakin kind no first, the reference to being born again. It's not only not biblical. It is blasphemous and satanic. Satanists have always tried to teach a counterfeit born again experience. As an occult initiate goes through his initiation ritual, when he is pulled back to his feet, usually out of a coffin.
Hey, yes. Oh, yeah, if I'm in initiation. Yeah, you don't do it from that come. Now, if you know, higher quan home, then young come dear, amount. If you are beef from that kind of so. No, prefer that kind of more. I say you are born again.
I say, as an occult initiate goes through his initiation ritual, when he is pulled back to his feet, usually out of a coffin.
Yes.
He is said to now be born again.
Hi, it's a piece of fun. I'm boros our word, no. Sir, I'm from bio. I'm the bra Africa for say. I suddenly Montremu. And to look to Shababu no. Say Jesus Christ no, you're born a Sue. Say the Codemus no. The lie. Because don't want to scramp no. No, you. No, your teacher ni.
Yes, a teacher.
I'm not saying yes,
a Hebrew teacher.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Because of wrong. I don't know Christopher. I'm on portrait with ya Christopher. And the Bonita Biano, or man Brazil, said I'm some obwa. And Untino, the Bonita will be near and all year. And I saw them one problem upon problem because my own tea. And Yama, Buni Yana Sumbosumono, the Bonsamono, and no other back no more. And oh, I am born again. Hey, contractor, how are you? I'm fine. Are you born again? My God, you want me but I am born again.
Hey! I am born again. Oh, I said the contract. Wanya, Nizaka. I was here. Aha, ena Isai, NDA, SC. Epacho, mucha line and Zumaya na. I am born again. Hi! Where do we wear that? Yo, I say, we say. Free the Mind movement predicted that Pope Francis is the last pope, but here we have another pope. Why? From Dapa, I have Kenya say, hey, Azemo, Mumu yo, hey, Ghana, is heaven real? Hey, Monso, hey, Azemo, honestly, the other buyer, no. Obisa Sembisa, are you a Christian? Yo. Only dia or the buyer and no. Roman Catholic is the ever paganism church, which its doctrines has dominated the world, and yet still their practice is still used in churches today all over Africa. How Africa when suffer from Sehi Fusu Krum. Okay, yo, suffer the nedia Abba. Good afternoon, Hebrew teachers. Please, what herbs do I have to use after attending funeral? Thank you. Thompson from Doma Ahenkro. Hello, Dini Pakwa Afrefi.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Yeah, me pacho Ogba na utie ohun a ye be yi afiso. Ogba na utie ohun a ye be yi afiso. Oba, yo. Okay, yeah, you.
Ajuma mo yumi na maya de ya dama. Nemu madubu na mukana na mtiafi.
Okay.
Yana mukasa, mukanya minya ne. Wamana mi bese mi hunya mi kwa mo kan ko so tika da burna. Yana na sabo nsam. Anya uradi nyankopon uradi se uradi ni midina mopa kanfreme nsemo mukanya no krona so na dia na afa na de bi kakre o tena me se mo hufo ye ka nyamia na bo sam na me buru nyamia nyamia ma ade uradi na bo ade ma ade
yo yate also odi abano no yo shalom alaikum Hebrew Israelite. If don't fear a black Hebrew grey. If you don't fear a black Hebrew grey man like this, you won't live long. Indeed, you, the greatest teacher our time, our greatest teacher our entire generation has ever and ever known. Yahuwah Israel guide you for me, my father, grandfather, everlasting Yahweh. Amache tema yo. Hello, Udini Fakwa Afrefi.
Hello, yes, I'm cooking Kajafi Tapadon.
Yo, we bacho yeti o.
The offer in Israel in a moment you must Mr. Hooks was over here. Now, the terminal of coming and a very spiritual. I know Jema, a piece of food, say, much me down, standing after me, much me, it makes you as me. And you know what's up.
Yo, yeah, that's it. You said that the black man was closer to God before being influenced by the white. were we doing human sacrifice? And we are questioning Obi Bisam. Hello, Dini Fakwa Ofrefi.
Hello.
Yeah, hello, Dini Fakwa Ofrefi.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, you're from Chester, Mr. Sepi Adenta.
Yes, you.
You're from Chester, Mr. Sepi Adenta.
And in one of the same fatu you are meeting you.
Maybe Saturday. Then one African, yeah. Nankupon, we are on the Nani, yeah, into your dominion. When to me, I'm trying, Nanyan to me for fan, also, and globally safely. Now, sir, that punishment here. We be punishing Africans in here. I know what she papa.
Yo, yate. You are no. Why? Yeah, there was no one this same. Good afternoon. So please, what do we need to do to free ourselves and to put us on the path of prosperity? Desmond from Begro. Okay. Hello, Dini Fakwa Ofrefi.
Hello. You're very careful. Papa.
Okay, yetio. Otie no ho. Mo basora epremu yesremu a mo ne me na ekasa enya onu TV no na ekasa dumu TV no ana lowa no na ne me nkasa sa. Hello, Dini Fakwa Ofrefi.
Dini David nkasa kiro buaso.
Me pa cho yetio.
But the question is like the some who bore kura before yeah na go mambo from the so
okay you wait. I think the second question is way offer onyima no ene ba me sure so for be taking note na next week oba de chain ya ba we ya no e de amamu na nabosompem akwatia Mr. Israel my Christ for all member at Anomabo. You are welcome. White man use religion, democracy, politics, education to enslave we all African. Hello, Dini Fakwa Ofrefi.
Hello,
me ba cho yetio.
Sefrewa. E mamuni ejuma moya na mo biye ni. Na ndemu sadia mo tre na si university fo ade na mo de tre primary fo. Nti ma ye pressure ye tiasie. E se ye source no bibia. Amade ya agene start ye no. E be ye din si ye be tiasie. Eti mo de mo nyira mo kakra na ye di machi onyame pa ye be tiasie. That's
Yo, anunti na ya na ye se anka mo momodin na mo mra class. Mo ambese musua de no. Mo ba class na ya na eno no class de obenya akwanya bi ko fa betena ha de a. Ha de o de mawiase nyina nti ha de se na wo kan ye no. Ai class ne wosoro. Nti no mo amuntim na ya mo mbra class mo ba mo benya no from scratch no. Hello, Odini Fakwa Ofrefi. Hello, Odini Fakwa Ofrefi. Yo, yetio. Okay, yo, Alligantus, yankwai.
O program kajira no ba
okay.
Ya ba no ite kakra. Ya ko
ko ben na ofi him mind. Ofi.
Na program no bia. Na me wa ko pa. Abi go me de ka no of na go bo shira mo wati. Ya bone ba pa na go po ntia ya. O mata abofo da ifo ada te ya krata. Abofo na ma bi fo na je de nga bi fo de so na go to pa o. So Nyangupo ya bibini o. Nyangupo ya bibini.
No correct.
Obi me na uze bisia Nyangupo de ye se Nyangupo before ma abofo abati aso sa. Ya ta ya kwa bonene ho. Ile Nyangupo de ma ya fo mu no. Ya ta ko ba bo se Nyangupo de ye. Shela bi ba pe ka be obi wu ananje ya mi be hu kakra.
Yo, enu bia na papa ne kano sa ne ma mo pese den ne ye ma so tue ne bae na no bia na Israel chechire mu yo ensi asam ne etimi kire nsam na bi wa habat en no obi kan no se asam na university nti obi ho a obe ka ne sen a on ti ase yo enso ofate obe ye na wa ye. Hello, Odini Fakwa Ofrefi.
Me de kwa mbo ati ne ka sese manso
yo mpa cho ye tie o me hu ni Fakwa ka say
Me say me say Israel nene.
Aye.
Okay, akutu.
Omoje wo so fa.
Oso ona le kuru fo ni so ati ati man so.
Omo ye hu pa. Embeji wo hu pa.
Yo, ene de beti yo bawro.
Ah, de what you bawro. What you bawro? Why are they?
Ya me try pa. Na me ke ni tia.
Yo.
En sanna mo kan. Akenso fo ye bo mo what you pa. Na dia tro mo fona. Afona ya tro wo mo. So we go to the other the car trade and I say you block ahead. We are the Cabia in Jim of Maduna.
Oh, okay.
You know, okay, I put in Israel, and so we demon. As one of the cars, I thought I knew so much restaurant to the let me know the that would be a trip. In Tinyasa and Tea, a piece of 1 and 2 months. The woman that got him from the block or so. Ama, ako ko ni misali sa aso na jino ko debi, ko debi ya. Kasi full na sila sila bala sila pase. Kudo che, hindi sila. Tema sila Kristo ko na se. Amo mo madeng na iya kira wo mo na, amo niya kira di niya pa. Umano ba ko mo ko sono? Ya kira lepi.
Ya yo, ya da se. We do am ya. If ya nyina here, aye nsem bibre. Na hey, asemo. Okay, we say na bosompem akwatia is we are kind dada. Okay, yo. We say good day, great teachers. Now that Pope Francis say okranso de na ya kind dada. Hello, good afternoon. How are you? My name is DJ Ketekre of Sankore. Infantim guys, you do all. God richly bless you all. Okay. Good afternoon, teachers. Please, when will Third World War start? Over Bayo, Obi Asema, Obisa, Enono. Obi Asema, Obisa, Enono. I say over Third World War of a time being ena eba. Okay. Empanyifo abusiafo aha ena bribe ma ye kwan eme ye de dwumadi ni nyina aba awieye. Ye wo book bi ho me pamcho mumfanto screen so emfa ma me. Na wenum ye books a abadwa manso a ya ne kama pa portable a wonam ba bia we na okenkan wade. Enti mpamcho mo de ba so mami a screen so a anka be ye me de ebia na open semisabi open nchechiremu bi open se obisa bibi bia no number we free number we na ofra opusi number book we free the mind movement Satan's four deadly weapon against ya Israel wa hwe edina atoro na se say your books are de badwa manso no na ashas ye na binie we portable ukura otika mu kura na wokenkan wade eno nti no ebo no me pacho ofre number mebubo ya me pacho nsabeka bi anasa ofre 0244 888 910 sa number no ofra book we baby a wo bia no nsabetumi aka bi fra number we na bibia ho no nkomo bia wo ne na di 0244 686557 0244 686557 abusia me a metra dwumadiem se dwumadiem chiam for me di ene kofi kumi oba de dom yen na so de chen a dasene e be sen hia akram
Osiboni wa manti asaye